Hello, eager students. This is Mr. Dunn, and this is Exploration 1.2 All Life is Made of Cells. Let's begin. All right, let's get a definition for cell. And the simplest definition we can have is that a cell is a basic unit of life. That is, it's the simplest unit of life capable of being a living thing. If we get simpler than a cell, it's not a living thing. All right, now, cell seems like kind of a funny word. We've probably heard it a lot. It's actually named after the tiny little rooms that monks live in monasteries. One of the first people to see cells was named Robert Hooke, and when he looked in his microscope and saw a bunch of cork cells, he thought it was just a bunch of empty space or little rooms. Now, the main function of a cell is to do all of the necessary life things. So if life can do it, generally a cell can do it. In fact, one of the reasons you breathe and eat food is so that every single cell in your body can get oxygen and have food to carry out those life processes and do the things that life does. Now, there are two types of cells on the planet. There are the prokaryotes and there are the eukaryotes, and we're going to kind of compare prokaryotes to eukaryotes. So prokaryotes are the simplest type of cells. They're really, really little. They'd be things like bacteria and a group called archaea. Eukaryotes are way more complex, whereas the prokaryotes only have some DNA and a few simple structures surrounded by a cell wall. Eukaryotes have hundreds to thousands of specialized structures inside them. The prokaryotes are the oldest cells. They've been around on the planet for over 3 billion years, and they were around for a couple of billion years before the eukaryotes. So eukaryotes, things like plants and animals, you and me, our cells are a much younger type of cell, haven't been around as long. Prokaryotes are made up of some really simple structures, a lot of protein and RNA and DNA, while the eukaryotes are made up of lots of specialized organelles that have special jobs like the mitochondria and chloroplast and Golgi apparatus, so much more complex. The prokaryote name actually means that it has no nucleus. So prokaryote doesn't have a brain, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have DNA and can issue instructions. It's just a lot simpler. Eukaryotes have a special nucleus, kind of the processing center of the cell. It sends out information, tells the cell what to do, and it's isolated, and so it's not just kind of floating around everywhere. Now, organisms, it doesn't really matter how many cells they're made of. They can be either made up of only a single cell, and we call those things unicellular. Examples of unicellular organism would be bacteria, archaea, the protist. Here's a picture of some unicellular organisms here. These organisms are called euglenas, and if you take a look, each one of these cells is an individual living thing. They're capable of swimming around, ingesting food. They can even detect light and swim towards it. And if organisms are not unicellular, they're made up of two or more cells working together, and we would call those multicellular organisms. Examples of multicellular organisms would be plants, animals, most fungi. Just about everything you see is a multicellular organism. If you're not using a microscope, you're probably seeing a multicellular organism. Here's a Volvox. This is an example of one of the simplest multicellular organisms. And while they look like they're probably made up of just a colony of single-celled organisms, they actually have some specialization. They've got cells on one side, we'll call it the tail side, that have flagella that propel the thing forward. And they have cells on the other side, we could call it the head, that actually have more light-sensing organs so that they can swim towards the light. And those cells then communicate with each other, helping the organism survive. All right, join us next time for 1.3 All Life Reproduces.